Hello and welcome to another video from Midas Touch Toys Games Collectibles. And today we are looking at the 1987 release by Dapol from their Doctor Who 25th anniversary series of action figures and playsets. And this particular item we are looking at today is of the Tetrap, which was one of the very first monsters that the 7th Doctor encountered just after his regeneration from the 6th to the 7th Doctor. Okay, so this is the card in front of us, and it says Doctor Who, and you can see an image of the TARDIS in the bubble, which is part of the opening credits from the Sylvester McCoy era. That's how it started, with the TARDIS appearing in the bubble. And just below that, you've got an image of the Tetrap as he appeared in the first Doctor, 7th Doctor episode, which was Time and the Rani. And there you can see the Tetrap behind the bubble. And at the very bottom, you've got the Dapol logo. Okay, so that's the front of the card. Let's just turn the card around and let's have a look at what we got on the back. Okay, so on the back, again, you've got the TARDIS bubble, again, as it appears in the opening credits. It says Doctor Who from Dapol, and it is the Doctor Who logo from the late 80s. And it says, the Doctor, a Time Lord from Gallifrey. Mel, the last companion of the 6th Doctor and the first companion of the 7th. The Tetrap, the first monster to encounter the 7th Doctor. The TARDIS, time and relative dimensions in space, the Doctor's time machine. K9, the Doctor's personal robot dog computer. And the TARDIS console. And it's got copyright BBC 1987, licensed by BBC Enterprise Limited, Tetrap, BBC, Pip and Jane Baker, and Dapol, Winford, Cheshire. Okay, so that's the back of the card. Let's turn the card back round to the front and have a good look at the figure itself. Okay, so I've zoomed in, I'll turn the card back around the front, I've zoomed in on the figure itself, and there you can see the Tetrap with his eye, one eye at the front and two eyes at the side. And he's a good likeness to the image on the left-hand side. And he does have, he's kind of like a bat, the Tetrap, and he's got bat wings. Which you can, if you just bring the card closer to the front, and you can just see his wings at the back there, just behind him. His arms open up, so the wings are like a bat. And he is obviously he's got the same articulation as most of in fact, of all of the Dapol figures. Now this one appears to be a little bit bigger than the others. This one measures about 10.5 centimeters, getting on for 11 centimeters, if you can just about see that. And width wise, he measures about 6 centimeters across, and depth wise, again, as with all of them, they're around about 1.5 centimeters, or getting close, 1.5 to 2 centimeters deep. Now, it is a pretty good likeness really for the Tetrap. Although the fur is dark brown on him, and he was like a greyish fur on the TV episode, so the colouring is not quite right. The facial features are pretty close really, although again his nostrils are not again the right colour. So that there is some variances on the colours there which are not quite right, but generally overall he's not a bad action figure really, in considering at the time. In 1987, I mean, we're going back 37 years, I think, if I've calculated that right. 87 to 2024, yeah, it's about 37 years. So 37 years ago was when this figure was produced. Obviously technology has changed so much since then, and they've moved on an awful lot, and things are far more accurate nowadays than they ever were back in the 1980s. And incidentally, I mean, these are the first Doctor Who figures to be produced since the mid-1970s, when the Dennis Fisher range of toys and the Palatoy toys were produced. So yeah, I mean, there was a big gap of toys between that time, action figures and playsets between that time, from 75 to 87. You're talking 12 years before anything else was produced, which is quite extraordinary really for a TV series that was going and going and going for so long. Anyway, now I don't actually have one of these open. Obviously it's still sealed and I can't open it, but I do have my trusted 4th Doctor action figure here, so we can see what the articulation is like. Now all these figures are articulation is all the same, so you've got very slight movement on the head, not very much. His head doesn't turn very far, just a slight movement. Obviously the top of the shoulders move on both sides, the elbows move, and you can see the same. You've got the articulation there, joints there, and joints on the head. So it's the same on the Tetrap. Waist, obviously, the legs go up and down, but they do not turn, and the knee joints go up and down. And again, there's no movement on the feet and no movement on the hands, and that is exactly the same on here. You can see you've got the articulation at the very top of the legs and at the knee joints, but there's nothing anywhere else. So articulation was pretty limited as well, in comparison to what we actually have in this day and age. So how well do these figures do? Well, I mean, they were released for the 25th anniversary of Doctor Who. BBC Enterprise granted the license for the 25th anniversary of figures to be produced, basically because it was a silver anniversary. And they approached Dapol and asked them to do a run of action figures, which Dapol quite happily obliged to do. Dapol were originally toy train manufacturers, and all of their items that they produce are sold through specialist shops and specialist companies. So the Doctor Who action figures went the same way when they were produced. They were sold through specialist shops, exhibitions, and so on. So they weren't readily available in every shop. So they were quite difficult to find, really, unless you went to an exhibition or a shop, something like Forbidden Planet, or to, I don't know, the exhibition at Longley. They had an exhibition at Longley, there's one in Blackpool. You would find it quite difficult to find these figures, unless of course you wrote to them and asked for their mail order catalogue, and then you would get a printed black and white list of products that they do, which you could fill in an order form, send away with a stamped addressed envelope and a cheque, and as soon as your cheque was cashed, the items would be dispatched to you, and you had to allow up to 28 days for delivery. So not easily available really back in 1987, which is a shame really, because I think these figures would have done much better than they did, although they didn't produce a tremendous amount of them, which is surprising really, because it was the 25th anniversary. But anyway, I mean, and then they did do 3 batches of figures. And this was the 1987 was the first batch, which was all tied in for the 25th anniversary. They then did another batch in 1989, and they were due to do another batch in 91, but there was a fire at the factory and they lost a lot of the moulds, so their next batch of figures was not produced again until 1996. So it was almost 10 years on from the first batch being produced. And then finally they did some sets, or basically they reissued some of the older figures in sets back in the early 2000s, just before their license expired, and then obviously the new Doctor Who was announced and the license went over to character options. So that's basically how they did. But going back to the point, is they could have done an awful lot better had they been available through the general toy shops. As Doctor Who was, even though it was not as big as it had been, it was still a popular television program, and for kids the toys were amazing because they all tied into the current TV show. And obviously Dapol did this whole run on the 7th Doctor, who was a new Doctor who just become the Doctor the previous year, and they also did previous incarnations of the Doctor and previous monsters, those Daleks, Cybermen, Sea Devils, and so on. Okay, yeah, and that's pretty much all I can tell you about these figures now. So they sold out completely. but they didn't do the quantities that they could have done, and they didn't make them readily available to everybody. So, of course, now, 37 years on, these figures are incredibly difficult to find. You do get a few pop up from time to time on the platforms, but not very often, unless they're out of the packet. So you do see quite a few that are loose figures that have been well played with appear on the platforms, but it's very, very rarely that you find a lot of these figures still sealed in the original packaging, as this one is. But as usual, we at Midas Touch have managed to find a few of these, and they're currently available to purchase on the Midas Touch website, which you can get to quite simply by clicking the link below. It'll take you straight to the website, where you'll be able to find this and many other vintage Doctor Who items, and many other vintage toys, games and collectibles come to that. There's over 10,000 products currently available on the website for you to view and purchase at your leisure. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because we're uploading videos for every new item that goes into the website. There will be something for everybody, and I am absolutely positive that you're not going to want to miss this, because we literally have thousands and thousands of new products, which we're shooting videos for and uploading on a daily basis. So if there's something in particular you are looking for, something old that you've never been able to find, something quirky that you might want to buy for a friend, or maybe just something from your childhood that you like to own again to help you recuperate those long-lost childhood memories, well, stay tuned, keep watching, because you never know, the next item we upload could be that item you've been looking for. Okay, that is it for me on this particular item. I do hope you've enjoyed this very short video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.